Yo, what's up guys, it's Ratty here, and in this video I'm breaking down the cost of Kung Fu training in China. For you, if you're wondering ongoing, I'm going to be talking about generally what it costs me, and a couple other factors that are going to be important. But before we start, I want to make sure I cover two things. Number one, it's a question I get asked a lot, is how did I afford to do this training? I saved for about 2.5 to 3 years while I was in university. I knew that I wanted to come out to China and train like this. I planned it out for several years. This wasn't something I was like, oh, I'll go in a month. If you're serious about this training and you don't have the money, or you're trying to save, or you're trying to budget, consider that for me it took almost 3 years to get out there, so it might take you that long as well. The other important thing to cover is why I chose this school. I was very fortunate. I had a friend, Mark, from university. We're in the same classes together, who actually trained with Shifu Wang before I went out there. Because in doing all this research, there's different schools, there's different websites. You don't know what's real, what's fake. Is this, I'm going to show up at the airport, is someone actually going to pick me up? That's pretty important if you're going to spend this money, is to know that someone's actually going to be there. So if you do decide to go with the school I went to, Wang Xinglong, they're real. You can see my video up above. That was really important for me choosing my school. So one is that I knew people that went there, they liked Shifu, it was good, it was real. And two is I saved for a few years to go. So let's get into the general breakdown of what it's going to cost you to go to China. If you want to check out how much it's going to cost you to go, make sure to head over to kungfuschoolchina.com. And there's a picture of me right there. And then we'll click over to schedule and fees. Okay, while it's loading, something very important if you're actually going to go to school is to have some sort of VPN program. So this is the one I used from back when I was there a few years ago. Still use it today, TourGuard. I'll leave a link down below. If you use the code RAD, R-A-D, you will get a discount. I'll get a little kickback. That being said, I've used it for about, over 3 years now. It's definitely a good investment when you're at the school, or if you're just not at the school. So here you can find the weekly schedule. And then you'll see the tuition fees. Cost tuition decreases per month as students train longer. This encourages you to stay there, etc. There's a $150 application fee. This is actually pretty important because Shifu has to drive, 4 or 5 hours out of the city to apply and to get paperwork done for you. So that helps cover that cost. And it also helps him to cover the cost of picking you up at Changchun Airport or Seping Rail Station, whichever one. Now, if you're staying less than 1 month, it's going to be $40 per day. And here's your breakdown for the months. So if you're staying 1 month, $890, $860, $830. It seems to go down by $30 US every month. It gives you the total cost of the breakdown, so it's a little more expensive compared to when I went. If you decide to go for multiple years, it's going to be even cheaper. Here's policies, training, and yeah, so I hope that helps you break down that. Now the other costs for you are going to be flights and visa, and that's going to completely depend on where you're coming from and your country and visa. One thing to consider in the breakdown of your cost is how long you're staying is very important. I stayed for 9 months. However, there was a student who stayed for 1 month. So if you think about it, the breakdown, 1 month's almost $900 US. You're paying for your flight, your visa, everything to come in for 1 month and then come out. So the person who stayed for that 1 month maybe spent $2,000 for 1 month versus, I spent $63.90 for 9 months. So you can see that I got, 3 times the value because I stayed longer. It just makes sense. Economically, it just makes sense. The longer you stay, the more you're going to save. So keep that in mind. So now we're going to cover the fixed costs for myself and what it cost me to go to China, if you're interested. So let's go over it. Flights was $620 Canadian. My visa was $145 Canadian, and for the 9 months of training was $5,660 US for 9 months of training. The grand total is $6,390 US for your basics of flight in, so that was only one way, visa, and training. So for me, my visa, I actually got really lucky. I got a student visa for 1 year. These are more rare, it's harder to get. You might get a tourist visa, you might have to get it switched, who knows? So your visa is going to vary. And because of that, I only needed a one-way ticket. I didn't have to book both flights in. So chances are if you're going for a shorter period, the government might want you to have 2 flights booked before you go for your visa application. So that's going to depend on you. Now, I was really lucky. My parents came and visited me at the end of my trip and they flew me back, so I didn't have to pay that expense of coming back. So what you get for that $56.60 should you stay 9 months back when I went, but as you can see the price went up a little bit, is you're getting your food covered. That's 2 meals, lunch and dinner, plus 2 eggs in the morning. You're getting your accommodations covered, so your room, board, training, basically everything you need at the school, includes your Wi-Fi, showers. You're not paying anything extra. Now if you want to travel like I did, I will talk a little more about that. For me, I calculated it was about $1,700 extra spent on traveling. That's going to Shanghai, staying there for 2 weeks, eating, hostel, touring around. I went to Xi'an, saw the Terracotta Warriors, and then that's including a flight, then taking the train back. I'll give some more detail on that and it a little bit later. Yeah, so I spent about $1,700 US extra on top of what I actually did here. So grand total is about 8,000 US, a little over 10,000 Canadian, maybe 11,000 for the 9 months I was here. That being said, base cost 6,390 for me for 9 months in China. Very important, we're going to talk about equipment, because equipment is necessary. If you go there without thinking about it or paying for it before, you're going to pay more money being there and you're not going to get as good of equipment. Like in my case, I covered most of the things well. You're going to want to buy a mouth guard for sure. You're going to get punched, so buy a nicer one. It's $15, $20, whatever. Buy gloves. Okay, I spent around 60, 70 bucks for my gloves. They lasted me the entire time. If you buy, like, you don't have to buy gloves. Chifu has gloves there, but they're old students' gloves, so they're gonna be smelly, not gonna be as nice. It's nicer just to invest in it before you come, to have a nice pair of gloves. Shoes, very important. I went there with like really shitty shoes. Actually, I had minimalist shoes that were good for running, but consider that you're on concrete all day and you're basically turning your feet and pivoting and rubbing out the bottom of the sole constantly. That's just a huge part of Kung Fu, is doing that. So if you don't have like nicer shoes, like sneakers, running shoes, you're gonna end up doing what I did and just buying a bunch of Feiyus that are cheap, but they'll last you, 2 to 4 weeks, and you gotta buy another pair. It's pretty annoying. You end up mixing and matching lefts and rights. Yeah, so cover shoes. Bring crappy clothes, because the clothes you're gonna have there are gonna get worn out most likely, so old t-shirts are a good choice. They do tailored pants. If you go to the city, you can get custom tailored pants. They're kind of like Shaolin pants. They're pretty cool. It's about 80 kwai or 15 Canadian dollars. Another thing for budget is taxi rides. Usually 4 students will go, depending on how many students there are, students will go on the weekends to Siping, and it's 80 kwai, which is around $15 again Canadian. So 4 people go, you're paying like $2, $3 to go to the city. Then you can buy some food there, you can buy clothes, whatever. It's like a shopping mall. That being said, it's not like a Western shopping mall, it's a Chinese. So there's different things available. Last thing I want to break down for you is some extra travels. So I've talked about generally the school costs, what it's going to be for you, what it costs for me, equipment that you're going to need to bring, and lastly, it's for traveling. So, and again, this is going to depend on you. I'm just going to give you some tips. I'm not going to give you necessarily costs. But for me, when I came to China, it was close to New Year's. So I went there in November, a month in, it was New Year's break. I wasn't planning on going anywhere. I didn't want to spend any money. That being said, my roommate, Matza, wanted to go to Shanghai, and so we decided to go together. It's a lot cheaper if you travel together with someone, because you're probably going to want to get a hostel. So I'll give you 2 options. Hostel, my hostel experience. If you get a private room to split between 2 people, it can be like $8 to $10 a day, which is pretty much nothing. And you're staying in Shanghai, so that's a good option. That being said, we had an extra person, Stefan, tag along with us, and he had to share a room. So he was splitting with 10 people, and maybe it was like $4. But Chinese have a lot different etiquette when it comes to sleeping and not keeping other people awake and not making noise. So I would highly recommend not staying in a hostel where you're sharing rooms with other people. So if you can, just go with a friend to do that. The other option is I stayed in Ibis Hotel, IBIS. Always had a great experience in those things. It was maybe like 30 bucks a night. Again, split it with 2 people, $15. But the room is clean. It's a nice room for a cheap price. And they also have breakfast, and it's his best experience and the easiest place I've used. So Ibis Hotel. Another recommendation is, if you can, fly to the location and then slow train or sleeper train back is a good option. So for me, Owen and Stefan, we went out to Xi'an. So we flew with Spring Airlines. It was like a cheaper flight. I think it was maybe $75. It took us all the way to Xi'an. We stayed there a few nights. Then every night we would take a sleeper train and move us back towards the school. So you would sleep, the train would take 8 hours. It's a slow train versus a fast train. And you basically rent a bunk bed. So it's split up into three per cabin, and you're sleeping. If you're a taller guy, it's a little harder, but I'm 5'11" and it was okay, but it's just a little tight. So yeah, so instead of paying for a hotel and transportation, you're just paying to sleep all night. You get there, then you get a hotel's night, spend the day, then take another sleeper train, or spend the night at your hotel, take another train the next day. So you end up doing like train, hotel, train, hotel, train, hotel. So you're getting to see a lot of the area, transportation, and you're saving on the night of stay. So that's a really good way to travel. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me any questions, comments, thoughts, anything I didn't cover down below. Make sure to like, smash that button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.